We have less than 2 weeks before the new year gets here. And every new year, what does that mean? That means we start to review and analyze. Does our setup look okay? Do we need to change it? Do I need to change my financial goals? Do I need to change the way I was doing things? I want to try to save this much money, but hold on a minute. Just because a new year is approaching does not mean you have to change everything, or does it? In today's video, I want to talk through the steps on what it means to have a new setup and new goals and all of those things just because a new year's coming. Let's talk about the pros and cons and if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing before we just drastically change everything we've been doing prior to the new year getting here. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go grab your planners, go grab your notebooks, and let's talk through some of the pros and cons on what it means to get a new setup starting right now. All right, welcome to my channel, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are new here, hi, my name is Chris. And in today's video, I thought we'd talk through that concept of because it's a new year, we need to redo things. So I wanted to discuss the pros and cons with you today. But we're going to get started with a list of pros here on why you should redo your budget for the new year. And I want you to drop down in the comments if you already have a plan for redoing your budget and your setup for the new year, or if you plan on keeping things the same. Drop it in the comments section. And let's get started with pro number one. Pro number one on why we should redo our budgeting setup for the new year is because it helps us reassess those financial goals that we already set. So what do I mean by that? Well, that just basically means that the goals we set for last year may change and now we have new goals. Maybe our goal for last year was to pay off our credit cards and maybe we've done that. So now it's time to redo our financial goals and start tackling something else. Maybe now the new goal is, since we paid off our credit cards, to use that money to get 3 to 6 months worth of expenses or to start saving for our child's college fund. So that's one of the main pros for redoing your budget for the new year. Maybe things have changed. Pro number two, it fixes what didn't work last year. So let's be honest. How many times have you started a goal and you couldn't finish it? How many times have you set this hefty expectation on, I'm going to do this, this, and this at the beginning of the year, and you don't reevaluate it or come back to it, and then you find yourself like, oh my gosh, I'm nowhere near where I need to be. So that's one of the pros of redoing your budget for the new year. If something didn't work, take a look at it. Why didn't it work? Did I set too many goals? Did I have too many expectations? And redo it. Don't walk away from it just because you didn't meet it. Look at it, reevaluate what happened over the course of the past year to see how you could have done things differently so that you can reach that goal in the new year. Okay, and pro number three, it's just refreshing for a new start. So the new year is always symbolic of change and a fresh new start. And that's the same thing when it comes to your finances. Maybe you're just excited for the new year. Maybe you lost that motivation over the past year. And so this new year, it always gets you excited to want to try new things. Maybe you saw the way someone was doing something the prior year and you're like, man, that may work for me. Let me implement that. So it's always refreshing to have a new start. Think about where you were, how you could do things differently. Maybe you just overspent too much last year and it's time to take a step back and think about that. You know, having a new budgeting setup is very motivating, isn't it? It just motivates you to do things differently, try new things, and it makes you excited about saving in your financial goals and where you see yourself a year, 5 years, or even 10 years from now. So that's what a new budgeting setup can do for you. Now, with that in mind, let's look at a few cons about redoing our budgeting setup for the new year and if it's worth it. All right, so now we looked at the pros. Let's dive into the cons of redoing our budgeting setup for the new year. And con number one, it's time consuming to start over. If you're the type of person that's been working on your budget for years, or you're just getting started into the budgeting system, it is a lot of work, isn't it? It's a lot of work, it's a lot of planning, and it can be very time consuming to try and start over, to try to get new things. So before you say, I'm just going to do a complete overhaul, evaluate what you have going on in life. Having a new setup and a new system may not be the reason why you're not reaching your goals. It could just be your time management, and you need to focus on that. Con number two, you may lose progress if you start over. So what do I mean by you might lose progress? So if you have this idea in your head that it's a new year, I got to redo everything. If your plan is to start new, bring over with you what you've already done. Don't stop doing what you're doing if it's already working. You never want to go backwards. If you already have a system in place that's working, redoing your budget may not be the answer. But if that is what you want to do, take a look at what you've been able to achieve and bring that over with you and start building from there as you redo your system. And the third and most important con of them all, in my opinion, it can be expensive. Now, buying new binders and planners and downloading new apps and buying new envelopes, that can be expensive and it's kind of counterproductive on the reason why we're saving in the first place, right? So before you think that it's a new year, so I got to buy all new budgeting items, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're in a situation where you can't afford to do that, then you want to reevaluate that and kind of take a step back and look at what you already have. While there's nothing wrong with changing your setup or redoing your budgeting, look at what you've already have to see if you can make it work. And I want you all to think really hard about this. How many of you have budgeting items just sitting around that you haven't used, that you purchased, but you don't know what to do with it and it's just sitting there? So before you go out and buy new items, take a look around at what you already have. How can you reuse it? So the question I want you all to ask yourselves before you do a complete overhaul and buy new things, how is that going to help you budget and save and be more effective than the prior year? So if you guys are enjoying this video and content like this, please make sure you hit that like button and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell so you don't miss more videos like this. So after reviewing the pros and cons and you're like, yes, I just want a fresh start and I just want to redo my budget. Let's talk about how to redo your budgeting setup with intent. Let's talk about how to make it work for you this year. So as you redo your budgeting setup, the first thing you want to look into is make sure you set goals. If you're going to redo your whole budget setup, this time make sure you set up clear goals on what you're trying to obtain, okay? We don't want to go back into the cycle of what we did the previous year. We want to make sure we're setting up easily obtainable goals if we're going to redo our system. The second thing you want to look into if you're going to redo your budgeting setup, you want to make a plan. Now that you know you have clear and concise goals, now you want to make a great plan to execute how you're going to obtain those goals. So make sure you look at the different changes from what made you want to redo your budgeting setup from the last time to this time. Is it something that's going to help motivate you to reach it this year? And if so, write out specifically what it is so that you can make sure you're staying on track with it. And speaking of staying on track, as you set up your new budget for the new year, you set your goals, you made a plan. Now, the most important thing is you've got to track your progress. So you got to make sure you're tracking your progress. And this is the most important thing about what we do. We can make plans and goals all year long. But if we're not tracking that progress to see if it's working for us, if this was the best decision, am I able to complete these goals? This is what happens and we find ourselves at the end of the year. Oh man, I wasn't able to reach this goal. Oh well, time to restart the budget. So you got to make sure you're tracking your progress throughout anything that you do in order to be successful at it. All right, you guys, so that is the end of the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And as you get ready to set up your new systems, I want you to think about those pros and cons. And I want you to drop down in the comment section below again. Are you redoing your budget system and what that means to you? I will let you guys know what my decision will be come the first of the year. And I will see you guys back here next week. Bye.